Welcome to Perfect-ish, where it's not about having perfect time management, but about perfecting your relationship with time. I'm your host, Callie Brigham, and every week we'll talk all things time and how to maximize it without burnout or guilt. Whether we're chatting with an expert or I'm sharing my 20 years of time management experience, you'll learn simple strategies to make every moment count. Here, it's all about getting close to perfect-ish. So let's synchronize our watches and dive in. Hi, friend. Welcome to part 2 of our two-part series, Busy versus Productive. Don't listen to this episode if you have not listened to the previous one, episode 98. We're getting close to 100 here. Go back and listen to episode 98, where we introduce the concept of the difference between being busy and being productive. I have everyone do a little exercise. I'm basically treating you like you are my one-on-one client. So welcome to our session. I'm your time management coach, and I had you do an assignment, a little exercise. On the previous episode, I had you do a time audit for awareness. So it was not to judge yourself. It was not to shame yourself. None of that. It was just to start to see where in the world is your time going? Where are you spending your time? Some of it's going to be really good. And as you're looking down, so maybe you have it with you, unless you're driving, be careful. But you're looking down at your week and you're thinking, you know what? There are some things that I really handled well. I prioritized that. I had some boundaries there. I really got the job done. And then maybe you're now starting to realize some patterns that you have. And it could even be that you start off the week really strong. And by Friday, all plans have gone out the window. Or maybe vice versa. Maybe Mondays are just, they kind of kick your booty a little bit and you just sort of like, whatever happens, happens. But you start to tighten up towards the end of the week because you're just in a better mood. Things are really looking good. Or maybe you're feeling that there's a sense of urgency before the week ends. And so you really do well with the deadline. In other words, you've got some patterns going on. But remember the very last question that I left you with that I think is so critical. The very last question was, if I were, or even if someone else, maybe this is even a better way to look at it. If someone else, like if it were me and I was your coach and I looked at your time audit, your weekly plan in reverse, would I be able to know who it is that you say you want to be? Or would I be able to pinpoint what your goals or your priorities were based on what I saw on your schedule? It's kind of like I heard someone say, if I looked in your checkbook, like if I still do have a checkbook, kind of nerd like that. But if I looked at your checkbook, would I know what your priorities are, right? Because we spend money on things that are important to us. Well, we also spend time on the things that we think or we assume are important to us. But are they? So how did that feel? I just want to sit in that for a second. How did that feel? Did it feel peaceful? Like, yeah, may not have had the best week, but someone would know that this was really important to me this week. Or does it kind of feel like a little irritating, like a little frustrating, like a little out of whack? You know what? That's okay. We have to have a little bit of frustration. I heard this phrase, frustration precedes growth or change. Frustration precedes change. And we can't change if we don't know some of the areas that we want to change. So hopefully that really helped you examine, go a little deeper to understand where this time is going and what we want to make some changes with. We're going to make micro changes. We're going to make small changes because we like to say we start small here. We don't start strong. The deal is, though, when you start small, you do get stronger and you do finish strong. So now that you have that week, you can pull out a fresh weekly plan. You can go to the show notes. You can download the brain drain. There's a weekly plan at the end, or I'm sure you can find one anywhere. By the way, if you like this electronically, you can always take that and you can download it into your favorite iPad calendar or app or however you want to do it. So you can do that electronically, so you can use your stylus and write it in if you prefer. So the A was the awareness. We're going to get into the B and C of effective and productive time management this week. The B is blocking. Okay, so I want you to think of, if you just watched the Super Bowl not too long ago, we've got the offensive line that blocks the defense from trying to sack the quarterback. Got it? All right. So we want to think of the boundaries and the time blocks that we have is like these giant protective offensive linemen. Got it? Their goal is to protect the quarterback who can see the field, is calling the plays, and frankly wants to win, right? So the key question under blocking is, how can you protect time for what really matters? And let me add on a second part of the sentence. How can you protect time for what really matters to you? See, this is why we're pretending like you're my one-on-one client today. This really is nuanced because your schedule, your plan is going to be unique to you. And it's going to be unique to your season because maybe you've done this in the past, and that is definitely possible for many of you. Maybe you've done this in the past, but seasons change, right? Kids' ages are different. Your energy is different. Your health is different. Your job might be different. Your parents and what's going on with them, your friend group, the whole thing. So, how can you protect the time for what really matters now? All right, here's another statistic for you. Ready? I love numbers. I don't always understand everything about them, but I do understand the concept. So here we go. The average person spends 23 minutes a day recovering from distractions. So the distraction is one thing, but now they have to recover from it to try to get back on track. I almost feel like that's a low number, but we'll go with it. Multiply that by a week, you've lost almost 3 hours. Multiply that in a month, you've lost almost 12 hours. That's half a day just recovering from distractions. And what I heard recently too is that when we're not clear, a distraction can look like an opportunity. Yikes. When we're not clear on what it is that we want to spend our time on, or what we're going to plan out, or that we're going to block some things, then guess what? A distraction can look a lot like an opportunity. And I call this sometimes creative avoidance because there are some things that just feel in the moment a little better than others. You know, you might have some really important calls that you need to make. You might have some really important tasks that you need to address. And all of a sudden, you would rather clean out the fridge. I mean, you don't like cleaning out the fridge, but that feels like an opportunity that means you don't have to do those high capacity tasks. That's where the busy versus productive comes in. You're like, but I did clean out the fridge. Correct. But was cleaning out the fridge the most important thing? So imagine got your offensive line blocking you so that you don't have as many distractions that then you think are opportunities. Goodness, this is a psychological game, isn't it? It really is, Fred. So here's your action step. Taking your weekly plan that's blank. I now want you to start to time block and schedule your day with intention. So some of your categories that you're now starting to block, and I would suggest you do your brain drain first so you know what in the world to even put on there, but your income producing or goal driven tasks. You can reflect back on your time audit that you did, and you might want to start putting some of them in the morning or in the beginning of the week, or maybe later at night or at the end of the week, for example. You also want to block in family or personal time. These are in no particular order. If you want to block in your family time first, your personal time second, your income, it doesn't matter. But they all need to find a home. They need to find a place. Guess what else you want to block in? You want to block in your rest time and your recharge time. I think that's a big one that we tend to miss. We don't do that because maybe sometimes we feel like we don't deserve it. We don't do that because maybe it feels lazy. We don't do that because we did not have a great week the week before, and now we've got to stack and pack everything in there. I heard someone recently call it slow-mo time or oxygen time. This could be time for walks. I block this in. I block in an hour and a half for a walk in the morning. And I know I work from home. I have a little bit of flexibility to do that, but I block that in. The first part of my walk, I work. The second part of my walk, I pray. And I'm going to share with you in an upcoming episode what that looks like. You might want to block in face-to-face time, your flow of your day, all of those things you're going to block in. So when you look at your week, should everything be blocked? It should. But should everything be a task? No. So I'll also give an example. I block Friday afternoons as overflow. So that way, remember, I unplug my router. If you heard me say it 1,000 times, I unplug my router Friday at noon. But guess what? I block off Friday from 12 to 4 as an overflow time. So maybe there was something that just didn't get done on a Tuesday. It's not super urgent. I'll just move that to Friday if I need to. So Fridays tend to be, and even in the mornings, Fridays tend to be my overflow day. So on my weekly plan, does it look blocked? It does. And the reason I want to block it is if I don't block it for that, someone else is going to come in and block it for something they want. They're going to sack me as the quarterback. They're going to see an opening, and then I'm going to feel guilty, and I'm going to go ahead and schedule that appointment or schedule that call or schedule that because I don't have it blocked in, and now all of a sudden I'm sacked. So yes, you are going to block the whole thing, but it doesn't mean that you have to block everything for busyness. Productivity can also mean, example, I block about 30 minutes most every afternoon to sit on my porch drinking a poppy, Poppi if you haven't had those, in a pretty glass with a glass straw. Sometimes I read a book, sometimes I listen to audio, sometimes I just sit there and pet my puppy, sometimes I watch something on Netflix on my phone. It doesn't matter. I literally block that in because if I don't block that in, I have opened myself from someone else to come in and take that time. So yes, your whole week should look blocked, but it doesn't have to be blocked with stuff. I also block the first hour of my workday for deep, focused, proactive work. No distractions, no emails, because once I start, I can't stop. I don't know about you, but once I start, I can't stop. So that needs to be blocked. I'm working with a new client, and we did the first step, we did the awareness. The second step that we've been working on for almost a couple weeks now is blocking in her quiet time. We wanted to see, what does that look like? How long does it need to be? Does it need to be 30 minutes? Does it need to be 45 minutes? Does it need to be an hour? Does it need to be 15 minutes? Then we started working backwards. Okay, what is the time before that? What time does she need to get up? Then we started blocking the night before. What does she need to prep? What does her space need to be? Where is that going to look? What can she have ready? So these are the things that you're going to block. Is it easy? Not necessarily. Is it simple? Yes. Is each week going to look exactly the same? Probably not, but there are going to be some rhythms to it that you will start to feel consistent for. Is it going to take a few weeks to discover what these blocks should be? Yes, it probably will. And I'm also going to say the more specific you can be, the better. Another client I was working with, she sent me her weekly audit. And as we looked at it, it was so general that it really didn't hone in on what she should be doing. So she still kind of felt herself flailing a little bit. What we needed to do was be very, very specific. In her time blocks, this is exactly what I do. When I say that I'm going to lunch and I want to stack something with my lunch, what exactly is that going to look like? So these do need to be as specific as possible, but again, they don't need to be only tasks. You have the freedom to have your slow-mo time in there, your rest and recharge, your white space, your boundaries, etc. Okay, so we covered A, which is our audit and our awareness, B, which is our block. So I want you to think of it as proactively protecting yourself. Protecting you physically, protecting you mentally, spiritually, emotionally, relationally, the whole thing. Now, let's go to C. C is commit. Because I don't want this to be a one and done. Anybody can start something. Then we get to the messy middle, but I want this to become a new habit for you. So C is commit. The key question for this is what will you do to follow through on your plan? Okay. Remember, we start small. So an action step is a micro goal. Once you have things blocked, I want you to identify your top priorities for that day. Okay. Not everything's going to go according to plan. Spoiler alert. You're going to have the perfectly planned day. And the reality is something's going to happen. All right. There is going to get a phone call. There is going to be a distraction that you just can't ignore. There is going to be a day where you just don't feel great. There is going to be a day, you name it. All right. That's going to happen. So, in order to continue the commitment and not completely fall off the rails, setting a micro goal is really important. Let me give you an example. One thing that I will do is I will say, especially let's use the example of my work time. I will literally turn my work chair away from my computer. I physically have to do it. So I swivel it away, look away from my computer into the expanse of the room. And I ask myself, what is the one thing that matters most today? The one thing that matters most today. Because I know that if something comes and it interrupts, as it might, and maybe it's a good thing, even a good interruption, I still want to have done the one thing. There's books about this too, if you want it. The one thing. But that's how I do it. I literally physically turn away. Can't do it looking at your phone. You should not do it looking at your computer. Your knowing will know it. Your knowingness, your intuition, your gut, the Holy Spirit, the whole thing, you'll know. So that's action step number 1 is set a micro goal for something. And it could even be for other parts of your day as well. Your micro goal in your quiet time could just be reading the verse of the day, or it could just be having your worship time. It could just be finishing your Bible study. One micro goal per section. Number 2 action step is accountability. Now, you can stay accountability to yourself. You can use a planner. You can have an accountability partner. This is why a lot of people do have a coach. With one of my clients, as we're working on her time blocking and we're working on what she's going to accomplish at lunch, she literally knows she's accountable to me, and I am keeping her accountable. So in the morning, I'm saying, okay, what did you say you're going to do at lunch? Great. Message me when you're starting lunch. Message me where at. Sometimes we need like super strong accountability partner to track your progress and to keep you on track. And it doesn't have to be forever. It could just be for a short amount of time. I have an accountability packing partner because I do not like packing. Oh, it's one of my nemesises. Nemesises? And so she doesn't even really know she's my accountability. I mean, she does, but I will text her and I will say, okay, I have a blank bedroom floor. I'm starting now. I set my timer. I'll text you in 30 minutes. I'll send you a picture of what I've done. And it really forces me to stay on track. Okay. And the last part of the action step is to celebrate your progress. So often we don't, right? We just move from one thing to another thing to another thing. I want to be the one to celebrate wins with you, even small ones. This is how you build momentum. This is really how you craft and create a peaceful yet productive life. What is it that you say you wanted when you looked at your weekly plan? Who is it that you said you wanted to be? What is it that you said you wanted to do? Let's celebrate small wins towards that. So maybe committing to one high priority task daily has moved the needle for you. For years and years, for me, it was committing to scheduling an appointment with a new client as my absolutely number one productive task of the morning. So that was it. When I turned away from my chair, that was the thing. I would turn back. And then when things went sideways or I got into busy mode by accident, if my day did fall apart or if it just wasn't as what I thought it was going to be, that one thing, that was a personal win for me. All right. We've gone through the A's, the B's, the C's. Do you see why we needed 2 full episodes for this? As I'm working with you like you're my client. I wish that I really could hear from you. So make sure that you are DMing me. Make sure that you're commenting me. And if you do want a free call and say, gosh, I really would love actually somebody to work with me to implement this. I really do want the accountability. That's what I do. That's what I do. Right now we're doing it almost like it's a group, but I would love to do that one-on-one with you. So we've got the awareness, we've got the block, We've got the time blocking. We've now got the commitment to make it happen. So remember, you don't need to do more. You don't need to do more, and you don't need more time. I've said that as well. You don't need to do more, and you don't need to have more time. What you do want to do is what matters the most. So the awareness shows you where your time is going. The blocking protects your priorities. The commitment, that is what's going to ensure that you follow through. All right, so I would love for you, if any of this resonated, share this with somebody on Instagram. Tag me. Make sure that if you do want to schedule a time for that free coaching call to see if this is for you, let's do it. Put that in your schedule, block it in, and then contact me. I would love nothing more. All right, friends, it is about being productive, having those priorities, and looking out over your life and your schedule and saying, yep, this is who I want to be. I am living it out. I'm not living it out perfectly, because in everything we do, progress is the goal, because really, truly, at the end of the day, perfect-ish is good enough. All right, till next time, God bless. Thanks for tuning in to the Perfect-ish Time Management Podcast. Let's keep the fun going. Follow me on social and join our Facebook community. And if you're ready for some one-on-one time management coaching to reach the top of your game without burnout or guilt, I'd love to chat. Book a free interest call using the link in the show notes or send me a DM. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a 5-star review and share it with a friend who's ready to master their time too. Remember, we're in this together, making real progress towards becoming perfect-ish.